The decoy effect, the pricing trick that makes you spend more. You're at a movie theater looking at the popcorn sizes. Small is $6, medium is $7, large is $7.50. And something weird happens in your brain. You weren't planning to get the large, but now that you see it's only 50 cents more than the medium, the large suddenly seems like the obvious smart choice. You buy the large even though you probably would have been fine with the small, and you just spent $1.50 more than you intended. Or you're choosing a subscription plan. Basic is $9.99. Premium is $24.99. But there's also a Pro plan for $19.99 that has most of the premium features. Suddenly, the premium doesn't seem overpriced. It seems like a great deal compared to Pro. You upgrade to premium even though basic would have met your needs, and you're now paying $15 more per month. My name is Jack, and I spend way too much time studying behavioral economics, analyzing the psychological tricks that make people spend more than they planned, and specifically trying to understand how businesses manipulate choice architecture to nudge consumers toward more expensive options. Exhales sharply. And what I've discovered is that one of the most powerful and ubiquitous pricing tactics is something called the decoy effect. A strategy where businesses add an option that's specifically designed not to be purchased, but to make another option look like a better deal by comparison. Because here's what makes the decoy effect so insidious. You feel like you're making a smart, rational decision. You feel like you're getting value. You're not being pressured or manipulated. You're just choosing the option that clearly makes the most sense. But the entire choice set was designed to make you feel that way, to guide you towards spending more while believing you're being financially savvy. So, if you've ever wondered why pricing often seems weirdly structured with options that don't quite make sense, or if you want to understand the psychological tricks that make you spend more without realizing it, or if you just want to stop falling for tactics that cost you hundreds or thousands of dollars a year, this is for you. Because understanding the decoy effect isn't just interesting, it's armor against one of the most effective manipulation tactics in modern consumer culture. How the decoy effect actually works. Let's start with the mechanics of how this psychological trick works, because understanding it makes you immune to it. The decoy effect is a cognitive bias where your preference between two options changes when a third, less attractive option is introduced. That third option, the decoy, is specifically designed to make one of the original options look better by comparison. Here's the classic example. You're choosing between two options, let's say a magazine subscription. Digital only is $59. Print only is $125. Most people would choose the $59 digital option because it's cheaper and print magazines are kind of obsolete anyway. But then the business adds a third option, print and digital combo for $125, the exact same price as print only. Now something changes in your brain. Thoughtful. The print-only option looks stupid because why would you pay $125 for just print when you can get print plus digital for the same price? Surprised. And suddenly the $125 combo looks like an incredible deal compared to the obviously bad print-only option. The result? Many people who would have chosen the $59 digital option now choose the $125 combo because they feel like they're getting amazing value. The business just manipulated them into spending more than double what they were planning, and the customers feel smart about their choice. The decoy in this scenario is the print-only option. It exists solely to make the combo look good. Almost nobody buys it, but its presence dramatically increases purchases of the more expensive option. This works because of a principle called asymmetric dominance. The combo completely dominates the print-only option. It's better in every way for the same price. Your brain loves dominant options. It feels like an obvious choice, a rational decision, but you're being manipulated into comparing the combo to the decoy instead of comparing it to the original digital-only option. I watched this play out when I was choosing a software subscription. Basic was $15 per month. Pro was $50 per month. Enterprise was $45 per month with fewer features than Pro. The Enterprise option made no logical sense until I realized it was a decoy to make Pro look like an incredible deal. Without Enterprise, I probably would have stuck with Basic. With Enterprise creating the comparison, I upgraded to Pro and spent $35 more per month for features I barely use. The principle, the decoy effect, manipulates what you're comparing your options to, making you feel like you're getting great value while spending more than you originally intended. Where you encounter this every single day. The decoy effect isn't some rare tactic used by a few shady businesses. It's absolutely everywhere, and once you know what to look for, you'll see it constantly. Movie theater concessions. Small drink $5, medium $5.75, large $6. The medium is the decoy. It's so close to the large price that almost everyone gets the large because it feels wasteful to pay $5.75 when $6 gets you so much more. But without the medium, many people would have been satisfied with the small and spent $5. Coffee shops, tall $3.50, grande $4.25, venti $4.75. The grande is the decoy, making venti look like a great deal. You're manipulated into spending $1.25 more than you would have for the tall. Streaming services. Basic tier missing key features, mid-tier with most features, premium tier with everything for only slightly more than mid. The mid-tier is often the decoy, making premium look like the smart choice, even though basic would have been fine. Software and apps. Free tier that's deliberately crippled, plus tier at $12 per month, pro tier at $15 per month. The plus tier is the decoy. It's priced just close enough to pro that pro seems like a no-brainer, even though free would have met your needs. Restaurant menu items. There's often one absurdly expensive item, like a $75 steak or a $200 bottle of wine, that acts as a decoy to make the $40 steak or $80 wine seem reasonable by comparison. You wouldn't have spent $40 on a steak if that was the most expensive thing on the menu, but compared to $75, it feels almost cheap. Real estate and cars. Realtors and car salespeople often show you something overpriced first, way above your budget, then show you something slightly less expensive that still stretches your budget. The first option was a decoy to anchor your expectations higher and make the second option seem reasonable. Gym memberships. Basic at $30 per month, standard at $50 per month, premium at $60 per month. Standard is the decoy. The $10 jump to premium feels tiny compared to the $20 jump from basic to standard, so people upgrade to premium even though basic would have been sufficient. The pattern is always the same. 3 options, with the middle or second option designed to push you toward the most expensive choice. And it works because your brain automatically compares options to each other rather than asking whether you need any of them at all. I started tracking this for a month and realized I was encountering decoy pricing probably 15 to 20 times a week. Every time I bought coffee, looked at subscriptions, ordered food delivery, shopped for anything online. It's not occasional. It's the default pricing structure for consumer products. The principle: decoy pricing is everywhere because it's incredibly effective. Awareness is your only defense. Once you recognize the pattern, you can step back and ask what you actually need rather than which option seems like the best deal. The psychological mechanism that makes it work. Let's dig deeper into why this trick is so effective, because understanding the psychology makes you resistant to it. The decoy effect exploits several cognitive biases simultaneously. Loss aversion. Your brain hates the feeling of missing out on value. When you see that the large popcorn is only 50 cents more than the medium, choosing the medium feels like losing value. You're not thinking, is large popcorn worth $7.50? You're thinking, I'd be stupid to pay $7 and not get the large for 50 cents more. The framing has been shifted from absolute value to relative value. The compromise effect. When presented with 3 options, people often gravitate toward the middle option because it feels like a safe compromise. But businesses manipulate this by making their target option the middle choice, even though it's actually expensive. They're not offering low/medium/high in objective terms. They're offering medium/high/absurdly high, but positioning them as low/medium/high. Anchoring. The most expensive option anchors your perception of what's reasonable. Once you've seen a $200 bottle of wine on the menu, an $80 bottle seems almost cheap, even though you'd never normally spend $80 on wine. The anchor has reset your reference point for what wine should cost. Asymmetric dominance. Your brain strongly prefers options that clearly dominate other options. When option A is better than option B in every way, choosing A feels smart and rational. The decoy is designed to be dominated by the target option, creating that feeling of obvious superiority. And here's the really insidious part. Even when you know about the decoy effect, it still influences you. Knowing that the medium popcorn is a decoy doesn't completely eliminate the feeling that large is a great deal. The psychological mechanism is so deeply wired that awareness alone isn't always enough. You have to actively override the impulse. The trap is that you're not making an absolute judgment. Do I need large popcorn? You're making a relative judgment. Which option gives me the best value? And the decoy manipulates those relative judgments to guide you towards spending more. I tested this on myself at a coffee shop where I know they use decoy pricing. Even knowing the grande is a decoy to push me toward venti, I still had to consciously force myself to order tall. Annoyed. My brain was screaming, but venti is only 50 cents more than grande. And I had to override that instinct with logic. I don't need venti-sized coffee, I'm happy with tall. The comparison to grande is irrelevant. The principle. The decoy effect works through multiple psychological mechanisms that make relative comparisons feel more important than absolute needs. You have to consciously shift from which is the best deal to what do I actually need. The real cost over time. Let's talk about what this actually costs you, because I think most people dramatically underestimate the financial impact of repeatedly falling for decoy pricing. Coffee example. You get pushed from tall, $3.50, to venti, $4.75, 3 times a week. That's $1.25 times 3 equals $3.75 weekly, $195 annually. Over 10 years, $1,950 spent on coffee you didn't need. Streaming services, you get pushed from basic $9.99 to premium, $17.99 on 3 different services. That's $24 monthly, $288 annually. Over 5 years, $1,440 on features you barely use. Phone plans. You get pushed from the mid-tier to premium plan for only $15 more per month. That's $180 annually. Over a typical 2-year contract, $360 you didn't need to spend. Gym membership. You get pushed from basic, $30 to premium, $60, because it's only $10 more than standard. That's $30 monthly, $360 annually. Over 3 years, $1,080 for amenities you don't use. Restaurant upsells. The decoy effect pushes you to spend an extra $10 per meal twice a week. That's $1,040 annually. Add it all up, you're probably spending $2,000 to $3,000 annually on decoy effect manipulation across various categories. Over a decade, that's $20,000 to $30,000. Over a lifetime, it's over $100,000 that goes from your pocket into businesses' profits through psychological manipulation. And remember, that's money that could have been invested. $2,500 annually invested at 8% returns over 30 years becomes approximately $283,000. You're not just spending an extra $2,500 per year, you're giving up $283,000 in future wealth. I calculated my own decoy effect spending before I became aware of it, and I was losing about $2,200 annually to this tactic: bigger coffee sizes, premium streaming tiers I didn't need, subscription upgrades with features I never used, restaurant upsells I didn't want. Once I started actively resisting decoy pricing, my annual spending dropped by over $2,000 without any reduction in actual satisfaction or quality of life. The principle: small individual decisions to upgrade because of decoy pricing compound into enormous amounts over time. The $1 or $2 or $5 extra per transaction becomes tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands over a lifetime. How to recognize and resist the decoy. So how do you actually protect yourself from this manipulation? Here's the framework I use. Look for the pattern. 3 pricing tiers where the middle option makes the highest option look like a great deal, or where one option is clearly dominated by another. That's probably decoy pricing. Ask what you actually need. Before comparing options, decide what would satisfy your actual need. If a tall coffee is enough caffeine, the existence of venti is irrelevant. If the basic streaming tier has the content you watch, the premium tier features don't matter. Ignore the only X more framing. Businesses phrase upgrades as only $5 more or only 50 cents more to make the relative cost seem trivial. Reframe it in absolute terms. Am I willing to pay $7.50 for this? Not, it's only 50 cents more than $7.